Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome to my channel, The Villainess Narrative. My name is Heather and today I'm going to be giving you my personal ranking of the Saw franchise. To give you a little background, this is my favorite horror franchise of all time. I remember when it first came to theaters, I was there every single October, right before my birthday, to watch the new Saw movie. Alright, and just a heads up, there's definitely going to be spoilers, so if you, for some reason, have still not seen any of these Saw movies, there's definitely spoilers in this video. Let's not waste any more time and get into the ranking. So starting in 10th place, I have Spiral. So I didn't hate Spiral, I didn't prefer it by any means, but I don't think it was a bad film either. When I first heard that Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson were going to be starring in this, I was excited. However, Samuel L. Jackson is barely in the film, if I'm being honest. And other than that, I really did not enjoy the pig voice or the pig puppet, and the killer was completely obvious. So after watching Spiral, a chapter from the Book of Saw, I realized that all I wanted was Saw. In 9th place, I have Jigsaw. Now, Jigsaw is honestly tied for last place with Spiral, but the only thing that separates it is the fact that it has John Kramer and is actually Saw. Other than that though, I was not a fan of this movie. I did not like it one bit. It was way too polished. They didn't even use the right color palette. It was all yellow when it should have been green. It just felt like all of the grit that's true to the Saw franchise was completely buffed out of it. I wasn't particularly fond of any of the characters except for Eleanor, which was an obvious red herring, and they pretty much shoved that down our throats the entire movie, which made it predictable that Logan was going to be the apprentice reveal. Logan being an apprentice is so unrealistic because the reason that he has for it is that Jigsaw did not want him to have to die for an honest mistake. Jigsaw has literally killed for less. In 8th place, I have Saw 3D. So obviously this was created at the height of the 3D trend, and I think that they used that to make some really poor storyline. For example, the Jill dream sequence and the opening scene with the love triangle of the college students really just got under my skin, but not in a good way. I found myself wondering why Jigsaw would have any thought in the world for these people, but then I realized that they probably just thought it would look good in 3D. I do like the effort that they put in with Bobby's character. I think the idea of having a character who faked being in a jigsaw trap just for fame and fortune was a great idea. However, I just did not care for Bobby's character at all. The only thing that holds this together is the saga that's going on between Jill and Hoffman. But again, I really don't like what they did with Hoffman's character in this. They completely made him into a corrupt cop from the beginning just so they could tie him in with the IA agent, who I don't even remember his name. But from the beginning, Hoffman was never meant to be a brute. He was genuinely upset and heartbroken over the death of his sister, and that's the only reason he's involved at all, and Jigsaw kind of blackmailed him into helping. So I don't really like what they went with his character because he wasn't originally like that, so they kind of ruined all of his character development and what made him a three-dimensional character. So in 7th place, I have Saw 4. To be honest, this film has really gone down for me over the last few years. I really honestly just consider it to be a collateral damage film. Rick's game still doesn't completely make sense to me, and it ends up being really boring. But I do think that this film is necessary in order to set up the remainder of the franchise, especially the reveal that Hoffman is an apprentice, and to set up the Hoffman and Strom saga. In 6th place, I have Saw 5. I love the background and the development of Hoffman's character that we get in this film, just as much as I love the cat and mouse game between him and Detective Strom, all leading up to a terrific ending where Strom is crushed in the walls of a trap. Other than that, the side plot that should be the main plot with the real estate agents and the traps, I felt was completely irrelevant. I didn't care about them whatsoever. It was more like background noise. So the rest of these films are no-brainers. I don't really have any complaints about them. I think they're all solid films. I enjoy every single one of them, and I think that they hold true to the ideals of the Saw franchise. So in fifth place, I have Saw X. I really love that this film is more of a character study on John Kramer as a human versus a villain, and I love when they humanize villains. They really take their time to build and develop a story to elicit an emotional response towards John and towards the people that are conning him. Honestly, this was the reboot that we needed, and this is perfect as a standalone film. I love that we get that green color palette back and that iconic Saw editing. The traps are pretty good. Valentina's has gotta be my favorite. That one was the most visceral. And the twist at the end with Cecilia being the bigger monster out of the two was really refreshing and kind of gave us this interesting perspective of this moral dilemma of we're rooting for John even though we know who he is and what he does, but we still root for him and want him to win. My only minor complaint with this film is the fact that we're kind of ahead of the game. We know what's going on with these people that are conning John, and they absolutely deserve to be in the trap. So because of that knowledge that we have, it kind of loses a little bit of suspense, but that's the only reason that it's in fifth place. In fourth place, I have Saw 6. Saw 6 is exciting and suspenseful. It brings back that fun factor with the traps and the story. I really enjoyed the storyline with the insurance agent in the game, and I love how they incorporated each and every trap to be personal to his character. Meanwhile, I'm a fan of the Hoffman story at this point. The stakes are really high because he's slowly getting exposed. So everything about this one is super suspenseful, and it brings it back to that original anxiety factor. Overall, I love the twist and the traps in this one, and I love the ending where Jill almost gets Hoffman. In third place, I have Saw 3. I love this one. This is where we get introduced to Hoffman's character, and I really love all the twists in this one. I love all the storylines. I really enjoy the psychological aspect to the storyline with Jeff losing his son and then going into the game against all the people that he has vengeance for being responsible for the death of his son. And I really think that the idea of doing a brain surgery on John Kramer was brilliant. It's so cringy, it's so visceral. Everything about it just, you're in your seat just cringing and loving it. Also, I think that all of the traps are super intense. They've got some of my favorites. I love the butterfly trap. However, I really think that Carrie deserved better. I wish that this is the point in the franchise where we're starting to get unwinnable traps, which I wasn't 100% a fan of. It kind of took the fun out of it, so to speak. But I did really like that trap. I just wish that Carrie got a better death. And the rack will forever be one of the most jaw-dropping favorite Saw traps of all time. In second place, I have the original Saw. To me, this is such an original story. The idea of being abducted and then placed into these gruesome life or death visceral traps in order to fight for the life that you weren't appreciating is such a profound concept and really demands engagement. Also, this is where we're introduced to the iconic, grungy, unique, and memorable editing style that really makes the Saw franchise what it is. And we can't forget about one of the best twists of all time. I remember sitting in theaters watching John Kramer get off of the floor of the bathroom he had been laying in the entire movie and just rip off that prosthetic, and I was so shocked. I loved that. Also, I'll tell you a little secret. I love Lee Wanell in this movie. I love his acting. It's so over the top, and it just makes it so much fun. I'm such a fan of it. I don't think that it would be the same without him. And coming in first place is Saw 2. Obviously, this one is my favorite, and it's such a good sequel. I love the idea that they decided to incorporate more characters this time in the house. That way we had more potential for traps, more blood and gore. It was an excellent choice. I also think that both stories were completely compelling. I loved the idea that this starts off with the police actually catching John Kramer and walking into his booby-trapped hideout. This one was so much fun. There was just twist after twist after twist. Not only was Eric Matthews just supposed to sit there and talk to John Kramer in order to rescue his son, who was in the safe the whole time, but you just find out more and more about his character along the way and how the side plot in the house that his son is in with all these people that he put into prison with falsified evidence. It just keeps getting better and better the more that it goes on. And this one, of course, has some of my favorite traps from the entire franchise. And I love that each of the traps was unique to each of the individual characters. I remember sitting in the theater when this first came out and watching Obi just burn in the oven. And there was something so scarring about that experience. So it just made me feel just hollow. And we cannot forget about the needle pit. When he threw Amanda into the needle pit and she's just got him sticking out of her, ooh, it just gives you shivers. So with that being said, there's no doubt that Saw 2 is definitely my favorite film in the franchise. Alright guys, that's my personal ranking of the Saw franchise. Please leave me a comment and let me know where you would rank Saw X and what your favorite Saw film is in the entire franchise. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe because I have plenty more horror videos coming your way. And I'll see you guys next time.